Mr. President, Ministers, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, good afternoon. It is indeed a great pleasure to welcome President Alassane Ouattara to the President of Côte d'Ivoire as our guest speaker in the African Leaders series. We are truly honored to have you with us this afternoon following your address to the General Assembly, and we congratulate you on your recent assumption to the presidency of your country. Our discussion today is a continuation of our African Leader series, which has previously featured other prominent leaders, including President Wade, Kagame, and Bongo, to meet with members of the UN community in this informal setting. The International Peace Institute's Africa program, which is our longest continuous program going back to 1993, seeks to assist African leaders and civil society in order to manage and resolve conflicts. And it is in this spirit I welcome you here today. As we are all aware, Côte d'Ivoire has gone through a decisive political change under, to say the least, very difficult circumstances in the past year. In the preceding decades, the leaders of Côte d'Ivoire have played major roles in bringing peace to Liberia, Sierra Leone, and more broadly, to the West African region. In the last decade, however, politics in Côte d'Ivoire fractured. After a contentious electoral campaign and extensive violence, President Ouattara was declared the winner of the November 2010 presidential election. This outcome was endorsed by the United Nations and the entire international community. It was only in April 2011, however, that Laurent Gbagbo was compelled by the United Nations and French forces to step down. President Ouattara was confirmed the winner by the Constitutional Court in May of this year and has now assumed his, if I may say so, rightful place as president of his country. The topic of today's event, Rebuilding Côte d'Ivoire, the way forward, underscores the tremendous hope as well as the major challenges that you face, Mr. President. Rebuilding Côte d'Ivoire's political and economic institutions is of great importance, not only for your country, but for the entire West African sub-region and the continent as a whole. President Ouattara brings to these challenges not only his political and moral commitment to rebuilding Côte d'Ivoire, but a distinguished national and international career, which makes him, I'd say, eminently qualified to meet them. President Ouattara obtained a doctorate in economics from the University of Philadelphia in Pennsylvania. He subsequently worked for the International Monetary Fund, which, combined with his work for the Central Bank of West African States in Paris and in Dakar, counted for his 20 years of international and regional services. In Côte d'Ivoire, President Ouattara was first appointed president of the Interministerial Committee for Coordination of the Stabilization Program and Economic Recovery. He was then appointed by then President Félix Houphouët-Boigny, appointed Prime Minister and head of government, a position he occupied from November 1990 to December 1993. Indeed, overcoming divisions and restoring the social cohesion in Côte d'Ivoire is a big challenge. The establishment of the Dialogue, Truth, and Reconciliation Commission is an important first step. President Ouattara, we recognize in you a man of patience, of courage, of determination, and with a demonstrated ability to find solutions to the most difficult challenges ahead. We look forward to hearing your views on how best to move Côte d'Ivoire from a decade of conflict into a new era of post-conflict reconstruction. President Ouattara will now give a brief presentation that addresses these challenges, followed by a conversation with you, the audience. But before I give you the floor, Mr. President, one administrative note. We have interpretation here today, and you will find devices on your chairs. Channel 1 is English. I repeat, Channel 1 is English. Channel 3 is French. I also want to remind you that this meeting is on the record and that we are webcasting this event live. Thank you very much. You have the floor, Mr. President.
Thank you, President Larsen, and thank you for this opportunity to give your recent political, economic, and social development in Côte d'Ivoire. I think since we've consumed about 20 minutes eating a very good Ivorian food you gave us with a lot of pepper, so that's why you can see I'm not getting red, I'm getting green because of too much pepper I ate. But I'd like to say that probably it's better for me to tell you what are the main challenges we're facing now. I saw the list, you know all the developments in Côte d'Ivoire, how things went with the election, the post-electoral crisis, the war in Abidjan, how Babo left, and how I took the oath of office early May, and then the inauguration in May, and the government was formed on 1st of June. So in effect, our government is only 4 months old. We have set ourselves objectives concerning the immediate period. First, securization, to make sure that we have peace return to Abidjan and to the remaining parts of the country. It was easier in the remaining part of the country. Abidjan was quite difficult because at the height of the battle in Abidjan, it's about 30,000 people young people who decided without any experience or training, decided to fight against the militia and mercenaries brought in by Babo. He had nearly 50,000 mercenaries, and so it was quite difficult. Too many people died during this period. And we finally, after several weeks, we were able to pacify Abidjan. Many of the mercenaries left. The militias moved on to the western part of the country. Some crossed over, including the mercenaries, to Liberia. And so we still have a bit of this problem with problems on the western part of the country. Some of the military officials and the former government officials moved to Ghana on the Eastern Front. Many have returned, but basically the two countries, Ghana and Liberia, is cooperating very well. So clearly the people there know that they cannot escape trials, and that at some stage they should return home. And in fact, I'm going to visit Ghana early October. And I was in Liberia a month ago. So both the two countries are doing everything to support our efforts to get peace, and also to get the rule of law, to make sure that people who return will face with trial if they should. And on that count, I can assure you that there won't be two types of treatment. Everyone will be treated equally. This has had dramatic humanitarian consequences since at 1.1 million people were displaced internally or refugees in neighboring countries. Now, on the second chapter, the military front of security, we've been able to merge the two armies, the army which come from the north and the regular army, by making appointments where both armies will be represented at the top echelon. So if the chief of staff is from the Northern Army, the deputy is from the other side. This was true for not only for the military, air force, marine, paramilitary, police, and so forth. So that has worked well. And now the deployment and the integration has been taken down to cover nearly all the levels of responsibility in the army, from the unit of 25 persons to the battalion of 900 persons. We're working on a security sector reform on our own and with the support of the UN. There again, we believe that things clearly will be handled properly. So the humanitarian cost was very heavy, and there the UN has helped us substantially, and we continue to ask for their help. We have institutions were set up very early. The Constitutional Court came in from Ghana, and with the help of President Atamil for the swearing in of the ceremony of my swearing in. We've set up the members of the Supreme Court were appointed, of the Economic and Social Council, and so on the various institutions. And there again, we try to make sure that all the different parts of the country are represented. So most of the political affiliations also are represented. Now, on the main issues that we're addressing is reconciliation. Reconciliation, I think reconciliation starts with the need for the leaders to really have a language of reconciliation. The problem is that with President Babo, he had a language of hatred, of division, and this was taken over by his party, by the state television. So now we clearly have a different language, a positive language, and I can see that this has been adopted all along the line, including in the villages, the chief of villages, small villages of 200, 300 persons, make gatherings among the different elements of the community to say that we have to reconcile, we have to live together again in peace. So this is quite encouraging. And the Commission for Truth and Reconciliation, which we have named in Côte d'Ivoire Dialogue, Truth and Reconciliation, the members have been appointed. And there again, we have made sure that we have all the different areas of the country are represented: north, south, east, west, center. The main religions, Muslim, Christians, also the traditional chiefs, the chiefs and the kings are represented. The gender issue, so 4 out of 11 are women. So I think it's a balanced commission, and we're going to proceed with their swearing in on September 28th in Yamoussoukro, so in less than a week. I was telling my brother, President Zuma, this morning that reconciliation is well supported if there is economic progress, improvement in the conditions of people, and so we have to make rapid progress on the economic front, on the social front, and for that we have set up an emergency program. In fact, in March, when I was at the Gulf Hotel, of $100 million to really give water, electricity, free medicine to the poorest, repairing plants, and so for cleaning the city of Abidjan, cleaning the major cities, removing all these problems of difficulty. So I think this is quite well appreciated by the population, but also by investors, because when they come now to Abidjan, they see Abidjan is a clean city. In less than 6 months, we have made this achievement. And I'd like to really pay tribute to the lady who is in charge of this project. She's doing an excellent job. We have, on the economic front, I was telling President Larsen that people thought earlier that the GDP would drop by 5 to 10% in 2011 because of the earlier situation during the first quarter of the year. As you're aware, the ports were closed. There was a blockade against Côte d'Ivoire. The ports were closed. The banks were closed. People couldn't go to work and so forth. Security was at its height. So the IMF is now estimating the decline in GDP at 5% this year, but next year will be a rebound. They have an estimate of 8 to 9% positive growth, which shows how much our efforts, our policies, and investments are helping. And normally after that, we should clearly be above 6 to 7% growth, according to the IMF. But my ambition is to have double-digit growth by 2014-15. And I think it's possible given the potential of Côte d'Ivoire. We're the first producer of cocoa, 1.5 million tons this year. We produce oil, not much, but 30 to 40,000 barrels per day. We have a lot of gas, which will come into production, produce rubber, and so forth. So we want to be self-sufficient in rice production in 3 years. So we have big projects. We have a hydroelectric plant, which will require an investment of $500 million and so forth. I hope a highway project between Yamoussoukro and Ouagadougou to be financed by some of the Arab funds for nearly $2 billion. So with all these investments, I'm confident that normally, especially, and also the measures will be implementing to give a better environment for business, cleaning the judicial system, tackling governance issues, eliminating racket, and so forth. So all these should contribute to having a much higher growth than what is projected by the IMF. So on the diplomatic front, we're determined to reinforce the place of Côte d'Ivoire. Côte d'Ivoire, as you recall, 20 years ago was a major peacemaker in the region. We were always present when there was a problem between Mali and Burkina, in Liberia, in many places. So we lost that capacity. We have resumed that, and we have visited already, I think, 4 countries in the sub-region, Senegal, Burkina, Nigeria. I'm going to Ghana early October, then to Mali, second half of October, then to Benin and Togo, and so forth. So we have invitation for state visits in France, in Morocco, in Lebanon, in Israel, and so forth. So it shows how how the country is moving. And we feel that West Africa can be a major driving force for Africa to give coherence to the policies of the African Union, because Nigeria is 150 million people, and the rest of West Africa is 150 million, so it's a region of 300 million people. So with a close leadership by Nigeria and Côte d'Ivoire for that region, clearly there could be major improvement in the coherence of policies for the continent. So the US has been extremely supportive. President Obama invited us here in last July. Of course, he praised our progress in democracy and the rule of law. And so I told him that has a cost. So we hope he'll give us a big check in a few months to reward us for this good job that we say we're doing. But in the Security Council, also on the ground in Abidjan, the US ambassador was extremely engaged, along with the French and the Nigerian ambassadors. They really did a remarkable job. So, President, I think it's better I take questions rather than give a lecture. So these are some of the main points I wanted to indicate. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And thank you very much for a very comprehensive and, in a nutshell, but frank, expose of the economic, social, security, and political challenges ahead. And particularly, I appreciated listening to what you said about the process of reconciliation. I will actually take the liberty of starting myself with a question before I open the floor, because we have had in this hall several discussions over the last few weeks and months, actually, related to what has happened in Libya, in Yemen, in Tunis, in Egypt, in Syria, and elsewhere, where there is one question which pops up all the time, and this is related to the use of force to pursue legitimate and just international norms. And here, these different countries have chosen different paths in order to do it. In Tunisia and in Egypt, it was peaceful demonstrations. In Libya, the people took to arms. In Yemen as well. Syria may be a kind of in-between example. You, as the legitimate elected president of the country, you found it necessary to use force, backed by ECOWAS, backed by the UN, and backed by France. But you took that choice and you pursued it. And this is related to both ethical issues, it's related to philosophical issues, tactical issues, strategic issues. Could you share with us your reflections on this very pertinent question of the day, Mr. President?
So I push here, okay. Well, thank you, Mr. President. This is an important issue because I really believe in nonviolence. I do not believe in force. I always believed in a democratic process, in the rule of law, transparent elections, and which is what we did. In fact, you may recall that Laurent Gbagbo postponed the elections 4 or 5 times, so elections which were to be held in 2005, then were to be held in 2007, and then 2009, 2010, and finally, even in 2010, it was twice that it was postponed. So both my ally and myself, President Bédié of the PDCI, the Democratic Party, we thought that we should give it time because with our coalition, we were sure to win the elections. Now, after the election, the election took place on November 28th in the evening, I called Babo because we had the results quite early. I knew I had won. I think our tally was 57 to 43%, according to our first estimate. I couldn't reach him. He called me the following night on Monday, late in the evening. I said, well, Laurent, you're calling to congratulate me. So, no, it's not over. I said, well, what do you mean it's not over? The figures are there. Then after that, of course, you know the result of his decision. And even when that happened, we waited for ECOWAS to give its position. And then, unfortunately, after ECOWAS gave its position, including the use of force in the statement of ECOWAS, the African Union came in, which they should not have. But this was manipulated by countries which you all know. And we really were not very happy with the African Union on this matter. But we thought that since our victory was clear, we should accept the verdict or the evaluation, as they called it, of the African Union. That came in mid-March, I think 10th of March. And there again, Babo did not accept to apply the results, to comply to the results of the African Union, evaluation of the African Union. So at that point, we decided, well, we did not want really ourselves ECOWAS intervention because it could have been very heavy, and Babo had started using heavy weapons in Abidjan, killing several hundred people. And we believe that it was better to take time to get. We had 9 delegations came to Abidjan to tell Babo to leave. The message was always the same: you've lost the elections, you should leave. What do you want President Ouattara to provide for your security and so forth? He always said, no, I'll think about it and we'll see. And then he continued to use violence and killing people. So at some point, we decided with the Prime Minister, who was head of the army of the new forces, to embark on trying to remove President Babo. After all, I had won the election democratically. He did not want to leave. And this, in 3 days, the Northern Army was able to get to the gates of Abidjan. Then we also, through the French ambassador, and the Nigerians, even the South Africans, we send messages to Babo that it's better to avoid a bloody battle. At that point, the chief of staff resigned. He fled to the Angolan embassy. From his account afterwards, he told me he had told Babo that they didn't want to fight. They wanted really to give up and let the implementation of the decision of the African Union. Again, Babo did not want to listen to the army, but because he had militias and mercenaries. So that's how it developed. So we really went into this, the use of force against our philosophy, against our will. And so it really, Babo is totally responsible for the fact that force was used. He had several opportunities to get a peaceful settlement. He did not accept to do it.
Thank you very much for those very clear words. May I now open the floor? Could you please state your name and your affiliation? And remember, we are webcast live. There is a hand over there. There are 2 hands over there.
Hi. Good afternoon, Mr. President. As we say back home, bon arrivé. I know it's been 3 days you're here, but still bon arrivé. My name is Abdourahmane Diallo, and I'm one of your countrymen and studying at Columbia University. And my question pertains to the role of Côte d'Ivoire in West Africa. Since you took office, there's been a series of meetings at the head of states and high military commandment level dedicated to address some of the consequences of the Ivorian crisis, namely the inflow of mercenaries and the circulation of small and light armed weapons that have destabilizing effect for the sub-region. So I think there's been like 3 of those meetings, and indeed it demonstrates a new approach and the downing of more preventive measures in collaborative way to address some of those regional threats. Next to that, in May, during your trip in Dakar, President Wade, during the joint press conference, advanced the idea of greater political integration in West Africa without outlining a plan, unfortunately. And so through this prism of this military mobilization and this political will to advance towards more political integration, there's an opportunity for Côte d'Ivoire that is, I think, undoubtedly the regional soft power with 4 sources of power, namely the power of attraction with 5 million of our brothers and sisters of West Africa who live in Côte d'Ivoire, a GDP per capita still twice as high of the regional average, the historical mediation acumen in resolving political disputes, namely in Liberia and Angola, and also the strong links that the country maintains with great power democratic countries, namely the United States and France. And in view of those developments and with Côte d'Ivoire soft power attributes, what's your vision of the leadership role that Côte d'Ivoire should and must play to enforce peace and security in the region?
Thank you very much. May I then give the floor? I think we can take 2-3 questions within the time frame. There's a lady on the second row on my left-hand side. Okay, we can start there with...
Okay,
you start.
Thanks, Mr. President. My name is Amadou Sow, and I'm from OCHA, the UN. You were just saying that following your meeting with President Bush, you said that democracy had a cost.
President Obama.
Oh, President Obama, sorry. Okay. Though I do believe that democracy is not just elections, but looking back, Côte d'Ivoire years ago, I'm from next door, I know like when we used to say Côte d'Ivoire, we used to learn a lot from that country, especially when it comes to economic and social development. But looking back in Côte d'Ivoire for the past 5 years and looking at the consequences of the political crisis over the past, for last year, you've talked about the humanitarian impacts. Do you think it's really worth it? Does it really, it costs, I mean, the cost really worth it? And this is not just for Côte d'Ivoire, maybe for Africa. Do you think that it's time maybe for Africans to look at other ways, less costly, that can better unite the people and at the same time have leaders instead of, starting from elections and then, going to where we've been in Côte d'Ivoire and many other countries in Africa? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Then the last question in this round.
My name is Julia Harrington Reddy. I'm from the Open Society Justice Initiative, which is one of the Justice Initiative family foundations. My question is about citizenship, Mr. President. It could be said that one of the root causes of the conflict, even the original armed conflict continuing up to this very year, is the controversy over who within Côte d'Ivoire really has the right to call themselves an Ivoirian, and very specifically, who has the right to hold documents proving themselves as Ivoirian. We would love to know what is your view about how to best address this problem.
Thank you very much. I will then turn the floor to you,
Yes,
Mr.
on
President.
the first speaker, I understand it's a question of a conflict in Côte d'Ivoire, its consequences, and the second part, the political integration. Now, on the first part of your question, I think everything started really in Liberia, and then it spread over to the other countries, of course, to Sierra Leone, to Guinea, and then to Côte d'Ivoire. And we're back to Liberia again with the elections scheduled on October 11. It's clear that the mercenaries, people who started all this in Liberia, went to various countries. Now we've had transparent democratic elections in Sierra Leone, in Guinea, in Côte d'Ivoire. So they've been pushed out. They're back home, and they want to really develop the same situation as they did 20, 25 years ago. So it's very important that these elections are transparent in Liberia and that things are protected. That's why at the ECOWAS, with Nigeria and Ghana, Burkina, and Senegal, we had a meeting about 2 weeks ago, and we decided to send military, not military, but I would say police force in ECOWAS police force in Liberia to really support the electoral process, to make sure that first it's peaceful, and secondly that whoever wins will be given the victory. So basically, I believe that if elections are successful in Liberia, peaceful, because we think there will be transparent, this will be a big plus for the sub-region. The fact that Sierra Leone has gone over its crisis, Guinea also, and of course Côte d'Ivoire. On the idea of political integration, we believe in political integration. We think we should go beyond monetary and economic integration. How to do this at the level of the West African Economic and Monetary Union. We raised this issue in, I think it was in June, and we have set up a panel to look at ways to recommend elements to us. And with Nigeria also, I've had several discussions with President Jonathan, who is also very much engaged in, we should find a formula to simplify things for the region. With 15 countries, 300 million people, I think we can deliver more than we're doing now. Now, this democracy has a cost, and is there an alternative? I'll say no. Clearly, you know, my own experience is that democracy and freedom are linked in a way. So they cannot be separated. So therefore, there is no way to avoid that. I think we're having the experience with the Arab countries who could think a year ago that Tunisia, Egypt, or Libya would have the young people asking for freedom. Actually, it's really, that's the basic. Because the lack of freedom, freedom of expression, basic freedom of really getting jobs, competition, and so forth. This is what has led to all these changes. I think we have crossed a big step in Africa, because if you look at the 15 countries, I had this discussion with the foreign minister. We only have 1 or 2 countries now out of the 15 where maybe one could question the process. Otherwise, can you imagine how this progress has been tremendous over the past 5-10 years? So I'm very happy I have engaged in this because I told people I came here, in the US, I was 20 years old, and I came to a conclusion that the strength of this country was the respect of basic freedom and the respect of the institutions. And so I went back home with a dream, really, to give that to my country, and I'm happy now that I have this opportunity. And we will do nothing to restrain basic freedoms in Côte d'Ivoire. Elections should be transparent. If I win, fine. If I lose, no problem. And so this should be reinforced in the next 5 years under my leadership. Now, the question of citizenship, I think this has been a major problem in Côte d'Ivoire, but it's not really the fault of one politician. I think all the line, everyone contributed in a way to this problem. And clearly we should get together now and make sure that this will not be a problem for the future. Because you cannot have, for example, if you have, my children were born here, you know, their birth certificate is a simple piece of paper. I think one was born in Philadelphia, the other one in Virginia. It's a piece of paper like this. That's all, and it's for both they have American citizenship. But in Côte d'Ivoire, you had a big piece of paper. If it's some are green, some are yellow, some are pink, and then there is a mention which always shocked me that if you have doubt on the citizenship, on the certificate you're holding, this is telling the police and the administration, if you have any doubt, then you can recourse to the authorities to confirm the citizenship of someone. So that means you don't have a citizenship if a person can go and confirm or deny you your citizenship. So that's why I'm saying it's not, and everyone kept this piece of paper. So one of the first things I'm going to do when we get the National Assembly, I don't want to do this from my executive authority, but after the elections, the parliamentary elections, we'll get back to reviewing the law on citizenship. I think we have to get a clear notion of what is an Ivorian citizen, and it's undoubtedly recognized, and so that we will not get back to all these issues to know who is an Ivorian and who is not.
Thank you very much for very interesting, to the point, and I'd say stringent answers to the questions. So we now take another round of questions. I see already one hand going up, two hands. So if you could please provide these two gentlemen with a microphone.
Excellence, merci infiniment pour votre exposé. Vous avez mentionné dans le cadre de votre exposé l'importance de l'état de droit, que ce soit pour la sécurisation, mais également pour le développement économique et social de la Côte d'Ivoire. En passant, mon nom est Stéphane Jean, je suis de l'Organisation des Nations Unies. Évidemment, les institutions de justice, que ce soit la police, la gendarmerie, le système judiciaire, les prisons, ont été négativement affectées par la crise récente, mais également par la crise des dernières années. Donc, quelle est un peu votre vision sur le court, le moyen et le long terme pour le renforcement et le rétablissement de ces institutions? Merci.
Thank you very much. Then there is a gentleman at the back.
Bonjour, Jérémy Labbé de IPI. Je continue en français. Monsieur le Président, j'aurais une question sur la relation entre réconciliation et justice en Côte d'Ivoire. Je serais intéressé d'avoir vos vues sur le lien que vous voyez entre cette commission vérité et réconciliation qui a été mise en place et le système pénal et judiciaire pour... notamment pour les crimes les plus graves qui ont été commis pendant le conflit. Est-ce que vous pourriez un petit peu développer sur cette question? Merci.
We'll take a third last question in this round.
Merci. Et je m'appelle Monique Chiquel-Kleska. Je suis avec le système des Nations Unies. Et Excellence, vous avez parlé avec beaucoup de confiance sur le développement économique de la Côte d'Ivoire. Et d'ailleurs, vous avez même dit que vous pensez que le développement économique ira même double digit. C'est ce que vous avez dit, dépassant même les pronostics du Fonds monétaire. Et moi, je voudrais savoir, au niveau de votre vision pour la Côte d'Ivoire, cette confiance avec laquelle vous avez parlé sur le côté économique, est-ce que vous pouvez parler avec autant de confiance pour nous rassurer que ce qui s'est passé en Côte d'Ivoire, cette déchirure qui a eu lieu, ne va jamais plus se reproduire, même avec la question que, et vous dites que vous allez essayer de régler avec le Parlement, la question de nationalité. Merci.
Thank you very much. I think I will then give you the floor again, Mr. President, and then we'll have the last round.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. The question on the rule of law and the prospects, I think it's clear that when you've had a situation when the law has been manipulated in every sector, both on the judicial, but in the administration itself, in the military, at the highest level. So it's not easy to do that, I agree with you, but it also depends on the determination we should show and the trust we have in our institutions. You see, I could have done like President Babo and appoint on the Constitutional Court someone close to me or to my philosophical or political ideas. But I appointed as head of the Constitutional Court. That's the highest court, in fact, in Côte d'Ivoire, to interpret the Constitution. And I took someone who's known as a socialist. I'm a liberal. He was an ally of Babo some years ago. He participated in the government with President Bédié, my ally. And, but the main thing is known as someone very independent, and is our first constitutional lawyer. So he's a man who's independent, and when I appointed him, I said, well, look, it's because you are respected, independent, and competent that I'm appointing you. So you have the responsibility of making sure that this country returns to really the right application of the law. Because the crisis went from the Constitutional Court. See, the Constitutional Court knew the results. Now the former head of the Constitutional Court, he was so scared to go to jail that when I saw him head-to-head, face-to-face, he told me, look, we knew the results, but we were afraid of being killed. So it's clear I will not kill the current Constitutional Court for any reason. So again, the leadership is important. And I believe that once people start seeing that the judges can render decisions which are believed to be the right ones in perception, in substance, this will help. And I hope that, in fact, we'll be able to catch a few judges who are corrupt and fire them through the process to give trust to people that we don't want to get back to a corrupt judiciary system. On the question of reconciliation and justice, a bit linked to that. See, in our view, the process, you have the Truth and Reconciliation Commission on the one side, but you have also the judicial process on the other. I don't want to mix the two because clearly people have committed things which have to be looked at by the judges, and once we get, if the judges decide to send someone in prison, well, the person will go to prison. The only exception I've made so far, it's former President Babo and his wife, because they were trialed and for economic crime because the corruption, They took money from the central bank. They even took trucks. They removed nearly $500 million from the central bank in 1 quarter. So clearly I could have said, let them go to prison, but out of consideration and dignity for their person and their rank, I accepted that they should be in a villa, taken care of, but under security situation. So now the Commission has 2 years to really listen to everyone, victims and others. And they'll come with a recommendation, and at that point we'll decide. If these are light things, probably, and there are recommendations that those should be pardoned, we'll do that. But in any way, killing people could be pardoned, in my view. But that's my view up to now, because we'll have a process of looking at this in government, of course. Now, on the question about the vision and how we can prevent what happened to come back again. Yes. Well, I think it depends on all of us, Ivorians. We should really accept that all Ivorians are equally Ivorians. See, that has been the basic problem in Côte d'Ivoire. People in a way thought that we had different categories of Ivorian. This was not good. It was not fair. And this created frustrations and problems and so forth. The lack of transparency in the electoral process also added to that. And finally, the manipulation of the judges and the judicial system. Personally, you can be assured that for me, there won't be different categories of Ivorian. I tell people that I'm in such a comfortable position because I'm a Muslim. My wife is Catholic. Some of my children are Protestants. Some of us are Catholic or Muslims. And I clearly have no intention of interfering with the law. I think my record is there. When I was Prime Minister, everyone agreed that the judicial system had worked better. And especially every time I will have an opportunity to speak to our compatriots, I will call for tolerance and for reconciliation. So what is said by the leader of the country is very important. Before we were hearing messages of hate, of division. Certainly, no one will hear that from me. So we should, each one of us, do everything we can, because this should not have happened in Côte d'Ivoire, really. But that's the life of nations. I pledge for my part that I'll do everything to avoid these errors of the past.
Thank you once again for answering so frankly and with such clarity. If there are any other questions, we can take them now. We are getting very close to the time frame we've set. But if there is one more question, I will allow for it. There isn't. Then I have a question. Human rights organizations have reported and documented extensive and serious crimes committed by both forces to your opponent, but also to forces loyal to you in the post-election violence. My question is, what are your thoughts about that, particularly concerning forces loyal to you, and what are you going to do about it?
As I said, we will not have different categories of citizens, of treatment of people, and so forth. What we have decided to do is to set up a national commission of inquiry. You're talking especially on the things which happen in the western part of the country and in one of the districts of Abidjan called Yopougon, where there were battles, and these areas, heavy weapons were used, and people were killed. And at the end of the war, there was an attempt at revenge by some, who killed others and so forth. So it's clear that there were killings on both sides. But a commission of inquiry should be able to tell us why this happened, when, and who did what. And on that basis, obviously, trial should start. And no matter which side people are, they should go to trial, and there should be sanctions. That I have no problem with that. Now, what we have told the human rights organizations, Amnesty, Human Rights Watch, and so forth, it said that when they have information, they should give it to us. It helps us, in fact, in evaluating the sincerity of what happened, because we also have information. If we were satisfied with them, I would not have set up a Human Rights Commission, a National Inquiry Commission. But they should not think that because they listen to one side, that is the truth. I'm not saying that they're lies, but at least let's find out exactly what happened. And once we know what happened, then the due process should start. We want the rule of law, and the rule of law means equal treatment for all citizens in whatever act they pose.
Thank you very much. What is left for me then is to thank you. And I'd like to say, I think that everyone in this room, including myself, feel pride for being here with a man of such tremendous courage, of such principle, and of such as we've heard today, and such frankness. I think you have everybody here with you personally, and also your country, and I think everybody here feels that we'll all like to do what we can in order to assist you in that path towards the future of your country. And then I would simply say, and I think I'm talking on behalf of everybody, good luck to you and to your country. Thank you very much.